ChatGPT 5.6 just dropped last Thursday. This is a model from OpenAI that is on par with Fable and Mythos. It is an incredibly powerful model as long as you know how to use it. Today, I'm going to show you guys some tips and tricks in order to get the most out of ChatGPT 5.6 Soul. So really quick, let's just look at the subscription page here. So there are plenty of subscriptions that you can go with OpenAI, and you have to go with at least one of them to get at least the minimum out of ChatGPT 5.6. However, I would highly recommend checking out this Pro plan at a minimum of $100 per month. This is what I'm on. It is incredibly useful for all things coding. I use it with Codex. I use it with Hermes. I use it with just the chat window, which is what we're going to be looking at today. And it also gives you access to this Frontier Pro model, which is what I'm going to be going over how to prompt engineer prompts for this Pro model in order to get the absolute most out of this new Frontier model. So here's a prompt that I have prompt engineered. I'm essentially asking ChatGPT 5.6 Soul Pro for a prompt to prompt Fable as well as ChatGPT 5.6 to come up with some different ideas. In this case, I said, can you come up with an app/website that would be a SaaS of a market disruptors, as well as ideas to fill a gap in the current market. Additionally, these need to be good ideas, high margin, not too complex to achieve, something that Claude Code or Codex can vibe code. So that is this prompt that I have here. So what I'm doing is I'm asking ChatGPT 5.6 Soul for a prompt to prompt itself. And this is where you can get the most out of these models. I've been doing this with ChatGPT 5.5. In order to make websites with Codex, I've asked it to prompt Codex so it can make a website using a specific prompt. So this is one of the most powerful things that you can do with almost any AI. Now, it is interesting. One AI that actually struggled with prompting itself was actually Fable. So I actually found this to be the most useful so far with ChatGPT, but you can do it with other AIs. So essentially what I've done here is I've asked it for a prompt that I can copy into a new chat window. So you can see here, it says it worked for 5 minutes and 4 seconds. So that is the cool thing about this Pro model. The Pro model does take some time, so you can change it to 5.6 GPT Soul right here, and you click on this Pro, and they got rid of the Pro Extended, but it's fine. It still thinks for a very long time if it thinks it needs the extra thinking power. So in this case, it thought for 5 minutes and 4 seconds and came up with this massive prompt. And it is, like I said, it's a huge prompt. And that's what I think is so cool about using this Pro model is it really thinks about what it needs. It puts together all of the information and it does not skip a beat. It adds everything that you possibly need into a massive, super powerful prompt for whatever you're trying to achieve. In this case, I'm looking for like market disruptors in the business space that could be used with AI and are a software as a service type of business. So this was pretty cool. And then this is something I didn't even ask it for. I'm going to go through this later. But it said, if you want to cross model synthesis prompts between Fable 5 and GPT 5.6, use this prompt after you have it generate all of that information. So in this case, it's saying put the prompt here from analysis A, which would be GPT 5.6, and then analysis B would be Fable 5 right here. And I ran that and it gave me even more information, which was really cool. We'll go through that, like I said, a little later in the video. All right, so once I got the prompt, I ended up pasting that here, and that is the full prompt, and all these prompts are going to be available. I always like to host the prompts on a Google Docs so that you guys can have access to them, and you can use them, and you can edit them as needed. So this is the prompt here, and I put this in, and it thought for 37 minutes and 8 seconds. So that's why I'm not too concerned about losing the Pro Extended model with the Pro subscription plan, because it seems like it's just adaptively deciding if it needs to think for longer, because this is about how long it would have thought on GPT 5.5 Pro Extended. And it came up with this prompt that was just absolutely insane. Just a massive, massive amount of information. Like I honestly don't think I've ever seen an output this long on a prompt in my life. To be fair, look at this. This is all one prompt. And that's what I'm saying. People are highly underutilizing their ChatGPT subscriptions and what that they can actually get out of the model, because this is probably the max that you're ever going to see out of any model in a single prompt, or a single response, I should say. And just a really quick comparison, this is Fable 5. So I decided to do a test with both because I was curious to see what the output would be using the exact same prompt. So right here, I have the exact same prompt, and it has a pretty good amount of information here. It's just, it's not as in-depth. It is very in-depth, but it's not as in-depth as GPT 5.6. Like you can see, we've already got to the bottom of the prompt. It's still a very long response, but it's nowhere near the length or the depth as the one that I produced from GPT 5.6 Pro. And then finally, I did decide to use that cross-model synthesis prompt that it generated for me. Again, I will put these in a Google Doc so you guys have access to them. But this is where I can take the Fable prompt versus the ChatGPT prompt. Actually, I put the ChatGPT prompt here and the Fable one here, and I could compare both of them side by side and then give me the best possible business idea for this theoretical exercise. So I took this prompt, and because it was so long and both those prompts were so long, what I ended up doing is I ended up copying this prompt, I ended up putting it in a Word document, and I pasted the prompt from ChatGPT 5.6 Sol, Pro Extended, or Pro, I should say, and then also Fable 5 here. And then once I had that information, I copied all of that information, ended up going back to a new chat window, and I pasted that entire prompt, that massive prompt with all of the information here, which ended up being, let's see here, 2,000 lines. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Anyway, 2,000 lines, and then I had to do a full investigation and decide what is the best between both the Fable one and the ChatGPT one. And I didn't tell it which one was which because I didn't want to be biased and be like, oh, this is my prompt, I like this better. So I gave it just like analysis A, analysis B, and then it went through and it gave me a ton of information. It thought for 16 minutes with this one. And like I said, this is what I want people to see, is this Pro Extended, or Pro model, I should say, is very, very powerful. And then the last thing I told it here, I said, that's a ton of information. Can you organize this in a nice, neat Excel document? Which it did for me here, and it ended up producing this awesome looking Excel document with all of the information for me to go through, a ton of tabs up top, executive summary, rankings, top 5, revenue control monitor, commission proof, accessorial capture, calc cert ops. I mean, just pretty much everything. This is just so in depth, so cool. I mean, this, I couldn't have asked for more. And I did this all within, like, because of how long it took for it to think, probably about 2 hours-ish, all said and done. So anyway, that'll do it for this video. I just want to show you guys the best way to get the most out of these models in order to prompt engineer the prompts themselves to be used to get the best possible responses. And I thought this was really cool. I plan on doing some more content on ChatGPT 5.6 Sol as well as Hermes. I'm going to show you guys how to hook ChatGPT 5.6 Sol into Hermes and some of the best use cases with Hermes. So stay tuned for that video. And if there's any other video topics you guys would like me to cover, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, have a wonderful day.